Network.
Ward, a three-time 20-goal scorer, goes to the net. Right down the slot. It's Vince Dunn. Going back to last season, Pasternak. Now it's 61 goals. In his last 83 games as his one-timer finds the back of the net. Through center and on the go. Ovechkin has it in neutral towards the empty cage. He scores again. Alex Ovechkin one closer to 800. Lose the draw. Now it's a 3-on-2 for the Stars. Lindell carries up across ice. Landry, and they score! Glendening went to the net, redirects it. A short-handed goal makes it 4-1 Dallas. That will not make the coach happy.
What the puck is going on?
And this is what the puck is going on for March the 15th, 2023. I am Stephen Murray on live from Florida. We have nephew Dave, and this is your 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Thursday show that discusses the National Hockey League. Broadcasting from here in the Deep End Broadcasting Studios in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Dave, how's Florida today? What's going on down there?
All right, Steve. So we just got back. We were in St. Pete getting a little brunch.
Nice.
Traffic's moving. Everybody's out and about. It was a bit of a rainy, chilly morning, actually. We woke up and it was about 55 degrees. The rain was coming down. Not too bad, but, just kind of like our weather. Things have changed drastically. It is now, I believe, about 72 degrees. I am sitting here poolside letting the red stripes flow. It is a beautiful day, not a cloud in the sky, so happy to be on with you, enjoying and discussing the hockey world. Again, doing it poolside.
All right, great. And the weather here is 50 degrees, windy with pollen flying everywhere. So enjoy that, Dave. I'm glad you're able to get out of miserable Virginia and March is what it is. March and April in this state are terrible for some people. Including yourself. But the good news is I don't so much look like the Terminator today. The eye's doing much better after stringent self-care, we'll say. Okay, Dave, only 4 games tonight. Let's get to it. See if we can get some plays. How were your picks last night?
Steve, we did really well last night. It's unfortunate for myself, I'll say, that the sports books have not opened in Florida. So while I had some plays that I really, really wanted to make yesterday, I could not put any in. And had I been able to do so, would have walked away with a little bit of money. But, hey, just knowing that we're, putting out some decent stuff for the listeners or viewers, however you are tuning in, just good to know that, I like yourself, I believe, we are getting some stuff right and kind of getting back on track, whereas, the last week or two has been a little wonky. But, picks went really well last night. Just wasn't able to put anything on the book officially. But, again, like I said, just good to know that we're somewhat getting, back on the right track here.
Yeah, man, 3-0 on Monday night with the 3 overs. And then I was able to capitalize with the over in the Arizona total goals, which we both liked. And the Senators got there as well, getting 3 goals. That's all they needed. Dallas Stars, I should have known better. The back-to-back, they just ran out of fuel as they suffer a big defeat, 5-2. All right, let's get into the games in a sec. Again, like I said, just quick recap of last night, only because it was so crazy. The Penguins losing to Montreal. So they're sputtering still a little bit.
We had that Montreal team total. That was a sneaky play that got home.
The Predators and Red Wings were exactly what we thought. A kind of tough, gritty matchup there, 2-1. But how about the Bruins? They lose to Chicago. So that's a crazy outcome. The Hurricanes get a nice win at home. Rangers beat the Caps. The Devils having a big-time issue last evening with the Lightning. So the Lightning get a nice win there. You got your lots of goals in the Oilers and the Senators game. And the Islanders didn't really hang too much after the second period with 4 Kings goals there in the second period made it 4-2, and they were able to tack another one home there in the third. Yeah, decent night as far as those games are concerned. All right, how does that affect the standings too? Let's just take a quick look at the wild cards, and then we'll get to the games. But Pittsburgh with 78 points, 76 for the Islanders, and then right there is Florida with 73, and Buffalo with 71. They play tonight. The Capitals, in fact, Brandon, how about this, Dave? B-Lip, he tuned in, and he wanted to know the perspective of the Sabres to go ahead and make a run here. I mean, obviously, you said that Pittsburgh has a cupcake schedule, and right now to make the playoffs, the Buffalo Sabres are paying plus 550. Where they trail right now in the standings at plus 550, would you maybe try to buy in on that?
You know, for that number alone, Steve, I think it's worth taking a shot on. They're really, they're only a couple points out in the race there. I believe 5 is the number. It hasn't moved any with the Islanders losing last night, so everybody behind them, the Panthers, Sabres, Caps, we all like that outcome. Pittsburgh lost. We all like that outcome. Caps just weren't able to capitalize and get, at least a point out of that. But with that Buffalo Sabres number, if they make a nice push within the next 15 games, I think it's certainly possible. The points are out there to get. So they're just going to need to play a bit of a, they're going to need to be consistent in order to do that. And that's going to be, I think, the problem if they don't make it.
So how about this? The Sabres, where they do trail by 5 points behind the Islanders. In order, the Islanders have played 69 games. Now, Pittsburgh has played 67, so they're not going to apply to this. Let's figure that Pittsburgh's going to be safe with the easier schedule that you mentioned. But they need to do better than losing to Montreal, if that's going to be the case for sure. 76 points for the Islanders, 69 games played. Florida has only played 67 games. How about this? Buffalo has only played 66 games. So they have 3 games in the hand still where they can make up points against to catch up against the Islanders. I mean, figure if they could go 2-1 or even 2 wins and an overtime loss and a shootout loss, then that's going to be 5 points right there. That's going to make up the difference. Capitals, a little bit rougher shape with 68, but Ottawa was 67 points. Detroit, 67 points. Games played. So the Islanders are right for the picking with 69 games played. Everyone else playing less games. They can play some catch up. For the Sabres coming up, B-Lip, just so you know, let's see. The Sabres have games against the Bruins, who they had a hard time with the Bruins here a couple weeks ago, but they will host them this time and maybe catching them at the right time. The Sabres will also host the Predators coming up, the Devils. They will be at the Islanders, host the Canadiens, and host the Rangers. That's a tough stretch here to round out March. So the schedule not easy, Dave.
No, not at all. And like I said, that's a tough ask there against those very good teams, and consistency is going to be key for them. They can't just win a couple and then lose 4, or win 2 or 3, lose 4 or 5. It's just kind of how it's been. They show flashes of what they can be, and then all of a sudden, they're on a little bit of a skid. So again, schedule and consistency is going to be the 2 key factors there for Buffalo. So it's going to be a tough task, but I don't think it's impossible. But as I always say, there is some work to be done if they are going to do that, Steve.
4-5-1 in their last 10, so it's not exactly like they're grabbing all the points they could be at the moment either. All right, to the games. Click on the odds here. Get off the playoffs for a minute. Okay, let's get to it. Yeah, Sabres and Capitals. The Caps about a $1.20 favorite, maybe a little bit shorter than that. The Sabres On the comeback, just the minimal juice at minus 102. Over under is 6.5, shaded to go over. Let's see. As far as total goals go in this game, we'll take a quick look at that. We have Sabre total goals at 3.5. Over is plus 114. Capitals 3.5 over is at plus 102. The goalies listed at the moment are Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen. I love another name I love. And he's the only guy listed right now. So that's that. I'll just kick it to you, Dave. You're the Caps.
Yeah, you would figure it's going to be Lindgren. It's going to be Lindgren in net probably tonight.
Okay.
You usually don't want to play the same goalie back to back. Caps have done it before this season, and typically it just has not worked out. So I got to figure it's going to be Charlie Lindgren in net. We'll wait to see as the time gets there. I would figure they're going to put that out soon, though, because that's stuff we're going to need to know just before puck drop.
And Ovechkin's been day to day. Any insight if he's going to play tonight?
I haven't heard anything as of tonight, but you got to figure he doesn't really miss a lot of games. So if it's something that's really keeping him out, at this point with the playoff race, and
then it could be a little bit more longer term. Yeah, wow.
Exactly, because like I said, he doesn't just sit out for anything. So it's got to be something that's really kind of bothering him. So really nothing new on that aspect yet. So we'll be keeping ears out for that. But Steve, I think in this game, which usually I wouldn't. It makes me a little nervous here. But the Caps did play last night. The over/under is at 6.5, with the over being minus 135 and the under being at plus 115. I think I would take the shot on the plus money under there. We see it most, not all, every game, but most nights teams play back to back. Their second end of those sets are usually lower scoring. So I think I would take a chance here on plus money at under 6.5, Steve.
Capitals are paying 7-1 to make the playoffs. Their schedule looks like this. After the Sabres game tonight, they host the Blues at the Wild, host the Blue Jackets, host the Blackhawks. They are at the Penguins. They host the Islanders. So those are games you want on your schedule. At the Lightning. And then in April, with their 6 games, we'll have the Rangers, Canadiens, Panthers, Islanders again, Bruins, and the Devils. The Devils could be resting players at that point too, as well, potentially. So how about this? Capitals 7-1 to make the playoffs. The schedule looks like it's manageable. You get the 2 main dogs above you in the wild card right now on your schedule. And the Islanders, you have them twice. You still have an extra game in hand. How about the Caps to make the playoffs? 7-1.
Hey, with that number, why not? I mean, yeah, like you said, the key word, you said it perfectly, Steve, is manageable. There are some tough games in there, but there are some games coming up that they just absolutely have to win those games. Those should be winnable games, so they have to buckle down and get those and find a way to at least come out with something against these tougher teams and teams that are above them in the standings. So it is going to be a tough task. It has been for them all year. Steve, this really reminds me of Vegas last year, where we really thought they were going to do something. A lot of their big names, most of their team was hurt all year.
Right.
So they managed to get close, but they just missed. And now look, they're a little bit more healthy than last season. They are banged up, but they're managing it much better. It's not as bad as last year, and here they are looking like a definite playoff team. So I think that's going to probably be the same scenario for the Caps. I think they missed this year. They make it interesting they retool a little in the off season and come back strong. And then I think we're looking at a more well-rounded playoff team next year. But let's take the under, knowing that we have a back-to-back going on, and just kind of, see what happens there, Steve.
All right. I'm going to do a pass on that as far as the game's concerned. Yeah, and the Capitals in their last 10 are 4-5-1, so they're inconsistent. But same record as the Sabres. So we'll see how that breaks down tonight in D.C. Okay, next game on the board. That's a 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time face-off, as well as this game, which is a good one. Colorado is in Toronto. Colorado is the underdog at plus 122. The Maple Leafs are minus 146, over under 6.5. Buffalo, we just talked about them. They had a nice win in Toronto the other night. Colorado, on the other hand, I think they won last night, right? Did they play last night? I think I remember that being on the schedule. Avalanche, maybe I'm wrong. Yes. So they must have played Monday. So I have them recently.
Yeah, I think it was Monday they played.
I had them recently in my head anyway. Yes. 8-4, the drubbing of the Canadians, which is the play that I had. That's why we have them in our head. For sure, Colorado, of course, has been one of the teams with most of the injuries on the year. And it's the same cast of characters if you've been listening to the show. But if you haven't, just know that they've had key injuries, but they've been able to play strong through them. As far as Toronto goes, injury-wise, I believe they were one of the healthier teams, if I remember correctly. Yeah, they got their fair share of players just with, personal issues or, minor injuries like a finger, stuff like that. But no super huge names really to note, except for Ryan O'Reilly being one of those players. He'll be out for a couple weeks still. Let's see here. As far as the last 10 games go, we'll go ahead and draw that up here real quick. Somehow I clicked to a double injury report, got off my standings. Let's get back to that. As far as Toronto goes, 6-4 in their last 10, plus 47 on the goal differential. Underrated. How about that, Dave? Underrated. You think of Toronto as the pure over team, but really they've been really strong on defense this year.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. I thought you might add to that defense, but that's fine. Colorado, good on defense as well. Neither team pumping in an extraordinant amount of goals. I guess 226 for Toronto's pretty good, but that still pales in comparison to teams like Boston, and even Tampa has scored more goals. Florida, more goals than Toronto as well, which you kind of wouldn't expect. Colorado only 214 goals, so you would think that they would have more, but obviously injuries play a key role into that.
Injuries have not helped that number for them, that's for sure, Steve.
Goalies listed here are neither goalie is listed at this point. So what do you got on this game, Dave? What are you thinking?
So, Steve, I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach here. I'm going to go to some goalie props. We only talked about that once last night. I usually try to take a decent look at those. And we have our ex-Capital, Samsonov, is in goal for the Leafs tonight.
Okay, all right. So you actually got a goalie listed. I don't have it right now, so maybe that's new information coming out. But go ahead.
Yeah, it's Georgiev for the Avalanche and Samsonov for the Leafs. And I think I would probably take an over on their over-under saves. We have Georgiev at 28.5, which is minus 105. And then we have Samsonov at 27.5, which is minus 120. And I think that's the angle I would go with, Steve. I think, he's having a pretty decent year there in Toronto. And we'd like to think that Colorado is going to take their shot. So let's go with the Sammy prop of over 27.5 saves at minus 120.
I actually like that angle, considering the teams are good at defense or not allowing the puck to get into the back of the net. whether that's defense or the goalie. So if the shots come off and even get there and don't get in the net, then that's probably a good angle, Dave. Actually, I like that. I'm
It's
gonna
a little something different where this could be a tough matchup to choose from. And if that's going to be the case, sometimes you have to find a little bit of a different angle.
And I'm going to have to take a pass on that one, as I think I like this next game the best, and then maybe a shot at the dog in the last game. But we'll talk about this first. 9:30 now Eastern Standard Time, so a later game here on the East Coast in St. Louis. The Blues host the Minnesota Wild. The Wild just minus 137, plus 114 for the St. Louis Blues. Over under is 5.5. In the standings, Minnesota is still in touch of Dallas. Dallas didn't do any favors losing last night. Minnesota has one game in hand. Colorado with 2 games in hand, actually, to catch Dallas, although they trail them by 7 points. But Minnesota right there behind the Stars with trailing them with 3 points behind. 84 points total is what I'm trying to spit out there. Last 10 games, 7-0-3 for the Minnesota Wild. And they've had a nice season, 38-21-8. I know Dave has some futures on them. I did a little kind of crazy 5-teamer for $5 today, and I went ahead and threw the Wild to win the Central in there as part of that in a cross-border. So I'll be having some rooting interest on that ticket as well, now that Winnipeg seems to be fading. But the Wild are at the Blues, and this is the game I think I really like. St. Louis, and their last 10 are just 3-5-2. They look terrible really all season. They've given up 242 goals on the year, which is a lot of goals. Minus 37 is their plus minus as far as goals allowed. Minnesota only scoring 195, so they've been an under team, and this could be an under game tonight too, as Minnesota only allows 178 games. In fact, I think I like both of those, but I would jump just on a straight bet. I think you can take Minnesota at minus 137, and under 5.5 is plus 112. I think I would maybe even take a stab at both of those. If you wanted to try to parlay that, then you're getting the old school 2.5 to 1 elementary school odds if you were betting in 5th grade between classes, with the bookie at the class next door, which the old school, that was the old school parlay, Dave, 2.5 to 1 odds on that. But that's basically what that pays if you want the Wild and the under tonight. I think I would just try to take both of those separate. I wouldn't be interested in trying the parlay, because at worst, I think you get a split. I think the only way this does go over is if St. Louis is able to get their goals. And listed in that, we have Jordan Binnington for the Blues and Marc-Andre Fleury for the Wild. How about that? So I like the Wild. I think the under is a nice play too. What are you thinking, Dave?
Yeah, Steve, I'm gonna agree with you there. I think there's really 3 plays that interest me the most. Definitely the under. I have that at 6, which is going to be at minus 115. So I don't hate that. I would also maybe take a shot at Minnesota on the puck line. Minus 1.5 is going to pay out plus 175. So pretty happy with that number as well. You would think that the Wild could take care of this, 3-1, somewhere in that neighborhood. They are the much better team, so if we're thinking that as well, and we want to play it probably just a little bit safer, Minnesota Wild on the 60-minute line at plus 110. So really, I think it's going to be these 3 choices with Minnesota or nothing for me, Steve. They are the much better team, good defensive team. So the under's in play, the much better team. So you would think that they could get that puck line home. And like I said, if we want to go a little bit safer, we take them on the 60-minute line while still getting plus money out of it, Steve. I think those are the 3 better plays to take away from this one.
Yeah, and the Wild have a nice team. You'd like to see them score more goals, obviously. But honestly, if they can just turn it on offense, then that team can make a really deep run if they can play, if that defense can hold up in the playoffs for sure, man. Oof.
Well, I very much agree. If that offense can get clicking, they could be a team to watch out for coming out of the West. There's no doubt about that.
St. Louis, pretty much a healthy team. You can consider them that with just a couple players on the injured list. Minnesota, couple more players than I guess I'd say about average. They got about 5 guys who are hurt, but they should be back anytime, really. So nothing major for them. Nyquist is the one guy they're going to miss maybe down the stretch, but he could be back in April. So full health, no one really out for the season will be the outlook for the Minnesota Wild as they will try to advance to the Stanley Cup. Let's take a look at them just out of interest in case I forget to look at that later. But to win the Western Conference 9-1 on Minnesota, 8.5-1 on your Kings. So 2 nice paying lines there, Dave. You could probably take both of those and hope the Kings or Wild get through the field, and you get paid nicely, just fading the Knights, Avalanche, Oilers, and the Stars.
Yeah, I do think the Kings have that sneaky chance. Like I told you, I upgraded them from my dark horse to a serious contender. So I'm behind them all the way right now. I think they have the team to do it. So we'll see what happens there, but definite future interest there, rooting for the Kings.
All right, in the last game, 5-2-3 in their last 10 are the Anaheim Ducks, and they're getting paid nicely at home tonight, plus 164 against the Islanders team, who's going to lay $2 flat on the road, coming off a back-to-back, and they lost last night at the Kings, just speaking about them. So this is a back-to-back situation for the Islanders. Let's see what they've updated on their injury list since they just played last night. Okay, they got through last night unscathed. No players added to the injury list today for them. And in their last 10, 6-3-1, but they have lost 2 in a row. So they have cooled off. It is a back-to-back. They've only scored 198 goals, which is not super crazy. That's about middle of the pack figure, maybe even lower middle of the pack as far as goals scored is considered at this time of the season. And they've conceded 192. The one thing that Anaheim has done is given up a ton of goals on the year, although they've been playing better lately. They've given up 271 goals on the season. And if we look at the Ducks in their recent form, they've given up 5 goals to the Predators, only 1 goal to the Flames, 3 goals to the Canucks in overtime, 5 to the Kraken, 2 to the Canadiens, 3 to the Capitals in overtime. And they've scored 4, 3, 2, 2, 3, 2. They haven't been scoring, so I don't know why I would really like the Ducks tonight. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Islanders just in their form, just because they're a lower scoring team as well. But the Islanders have scored 2 goals, 4 goals, 3 goals, 4 goals, 1 goal here in March. So they really haven't been lighting up the scoreboard. How about this? Give me the under in this game. I think that sounds like a good play. Under 5.5 is paying a flat plus 100. What's your take, Dave?
Yeah, Steve. So I think the reason that maybe, because I'm on the same link there with you, that we might be thinking the Ducks is we're going to be looking to take advantage of the Islanders on that back-to-back tonight. So here we go, Steve. I'm going to give you 2 picks from this one. We're going to start with the Anaheim Ducks, the team total at over 2.5. That's going to be minus 110. I say, why not take a shot on that?
Yeah.
Maybe the Islanders a little fatigued from playing, a good Kings team last night. So I think that could be a factor. Or, Steve, let's just take a shot. Crazy things happen. You look at last night, Boston gets smacked around 6-3 by the Blackhawks, and Pittsburgh loses to the lowly Canadians, who are just, I mean, God, that's got to be an AHL team, at this point right now. They lose by 2. So these things do happen night to night. And if the Islanders are going to be on a back-to-back, fatigued from getting smacked around by the Kings, why wouldn't we take a shot here with the Ducks? I think the team total is a little bit safer, but if we want to get that plus number, Anaheim Ducks on the money line at plus 160 for me, I think you just give it a shot. Why not?
And the 60-minute line is plus 240. And if you like an alternate puck line, Anaheim minus 1.5 is plus 370. So
yeah, I don't see anything wrong with that. If we're gonna push the envelope a little bit, by way of the Ducks, I think you could go money line or bump it up on the 60-minute line and really get a nice number and just kind of hope for the best on that one, really.
All right. I'll stick with the under, although I think I like all the plays that you said as well. And I could see the Ducks team total over hitting with the under hitting somewhere with 3. That would require 3, 4, or 5 goals scored, and the Islanders really just not to have a good night at all. So
a 3-2 game would do that for you there, Steve.
And the Islanders need to win this game. I mean, their playoff spot with
yes,
everyone
they do.
Going ahead of them. I mean, this is a really big game as far as that is concerned. All right, as far as the division odds go, Jersey's plus 210 now. I see the Wild plus 350. That actually has been dropping. Colorado plus 220. The Kings plus 250 has dropped now. So they're getting lower odds. Edmonton now 10-1. Seattle now 17-1. That's the win divisions, people. As far as conference odds go, we talked about the Kings and Wild paying nicely. Anyone beyond them, the Jets are paying better to win the conference than their division, which is funny. They're not going to win the West. Let's see, but I do like the 2 plays with the Kings and the Wild and the Eastern Conference. Jersey 6-1 to win the East, 650 for the Rangers. Lightning 750. Really, there's been no movement except towards the bottom. 17-1 are the Penguins. That may have dropped a hair. Then it really starts to drop off. 31-1 for the Panthers. No confidence in the Islanders at 40-1 odds. So they're expecting them to slip out. Sabres, since we talked about them, 160-1 odds. The Caps 110-1. So some big numbers out there if you think one of these teams can get in and pull off the old number 8, beats the number 1 seed. Bruins just paying plus 210. Nothing really changing except for in that Pacific Division, Dave. And so I think we'll just stick to our guns as far as futures go, right? With what
you're absolutely right. I think we just kind of stick with what we've been talking about, and at this point in the season with 15 left, let's just stick with the 2, or the couple teams that we, are trying to ride on right now, and just kind of, focus on them with, just so little time left in the season.
All right, let's go ahead and run down your picks. What do you got down there in sunny Florida? If you actually had a legal sports book to go to, which I guess you can't. I was going to say maybe the Hard Rock Casino, but I guess they don't have a sports book probably.
No, I don't think they do. So, Steve, I'm going to start off on the Minnesota Wild on the puck line there with the plus 175 price. I like that. The Ducks team totals, I think, is the play there. We said the under in the Capitals game, and the goalie prop, Samsonov, over 27.5 saves for the Maple Leafs this evening.
All right, I'll stick with the Wild. Anything Wild you want to do is good for me. My official play on that, I'll just take them straight up at minus 137. I think that's fair. And I'll take both the unders in the Anaheim game and also the same game with the Wild Blues. Both of those games under 5.5. All right, Dave, drink some Red Stripe for me, man.
Yes, sir. I will.
All right, man. Have fun. Don't get in too much trouble. Make sure you Uber or get your Lyft anywhere that you go, and be home by 9, 10 o'clock. It gets kind of scary down there in Florida late night. Okay.
Yes. Tight curfew in effect.
All right, guys. This is what the puck is going on for Wednesday night. A short slate tonight, but big slate tomorrow night. Dave, you around for that one? I'll buzz you later. We can make a plan.
Yeah. Buzz me in. We do have company arriving to the Airbnb, so I'm not quite sure what the plans are. If I can call in, I will. So yeah, we will definitely convene on that here in a little bit.
Okay. If one of them happens to be a Bigfoot expert, let me know for Inquisition Unknown. Okay.
I might just have somebody for you. We'll have to double check on that.
Okay. All right, guys. This is what the puck is going on for Wednesday night.